Once again, good morning. It's still Daybreak Africa, reaching you from studios here in Ondo City. I am Ezekiel, Ogar. This one will be talking on the status in Abuja, considering the kidnapping, the ransom payment, and killing. Now, recently, the Minister of FCT made a statement in his meeting that tends to actually catch my attention. He said the press tends to actually overblow whatever it is happening, and I find that quite funny, Michael. Now, just last month, in the festive period, we had an incident in Plateau State where terrorists tend to attack villages, at night, and over 100 persons. I think, if my condition was right, I mean, pure massacre. I mean, 190 persons, if I get that figure correctly, were massacred for no just cause, including women and children. Just barely a month later, we have situations of kidnappings, killing, and I must really reaffirm the death of that 13-year-old girl for no reason, just for no just cause. Now, we have him coming to tell us the press tends to overblow situation. I really tend to wonder what exactly are the press overblowing in this case. In a situation where it's more like we're calling for a set of emergency when it comes to our security in this nation. Now, we tend to actually encourage people not to panic, and I tend to wonder, can he actually tell that to the ages or the settlers in Buhari community not to panic? You wake up one morning and then you notice your neighbor God and his family were kidnapped for no reason, and just like that, you're really asking Nigerians and citizens not to panic. Well, nonetheless, we have Barrister Mcnezer Fasehun here, an academician, a barrister, and a public affair analyst, as we discuss the situation as regards security in Nigeria. Welcome on Daybreak Africa.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Barrister, looking at the whole situation of the we have a lot of insurgency in our country as of this moment. We have a lot of insecurity issues that we've been battling with over the years. Now, looking at Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, is a face of the nation where we feel like the seat of power of the president has been situated. The attacks that are coming from that place, on that place regularly in recent times. What is your take on it?
Thank you very much. My take is that what is happening in Abuja is just symptomatic of the state of the country called Nigeria. And when people get into power and make certain statements, you could feel the intellectual vacuity of that person by the kind of statement he makes. Sorry to say, immediate past president of Nigeria, when he was campaigning, he said if he gets into power, that within weeks, insecurity will be a thing of the past. He didn't particularly get it right, the definition of insecurity. Because insecurity doesn't happen overnight. And it cannot just be wiped away, wiped out of existence overnight. It's one of the phenomena of life that takes time to root in a society. The conditions under which you have insecurity are prepared by certain factors that you cannot just wipe and say with guns you want to wipe out insecurity. You don't. That is why philosophers who postulated about society, let's start from Plato. Plato says that before you can become the king, it's either we can have the ideal republic, his ideal republic. It is either the king becomes a philosopher or the philosopher becomes the king. What are the elements that gives room for peace? As I did last semester, and I think they had one of my exams yesterday. The title of the paper is Peace and Conflict Resolution under International Relations and Diplomacy, which I'm heading at the moment at Wesley University, Ondo. And I was teaching a class of community health students that subject. And I tried to relate community health to issue of peace and conflict. What are the basic things? Because when we don't get concepts and ideas very correctly from the beginning, we begin to get policies, definitions, begin to get them wrong. Carl Garris, the author of the scientific thinking in the scientific study of law, he divides the 5 ideas that are the rules of human conduct into 5. He says there is law, there is morals, there's religion, there's equity, and there's social convention. He says each one of these rules of human conduct has its sources, its means of enforcement, his objective, which is social order most of the time, and its authorities. Now, the authority and the source of religion. While you were going to introduce this topic a little while ago, you mentioned that Nigeria is supposed to be one of the most religious countries in the world. Religion is antithetical to peace. Religion is chaos. Religion has nothing to contribute to social development. If you read thinkers like Matthew Arnold in his essay, Literature and Science, and then the function of criticism at the present time, he was a Victorian essayist. Matthew Arnold was of the opinion that there are 2 realms of human existence where you can find charlatanism and quackery. And he identified those 2 realms as politics and religion. Because if you claim that you have a supernatural or you divine exposure or divine vision or whatever, there's no way of verifying your source. Where did you get it from? Because man is naturally religious because he has a tendency to look for the supernatural in order to escape the forces of the natural, as far as his whims are concerned. But the truth of the matter is that in religion and politics, you can never have respite in a society as a result of religion and politics. You cannot. The characters there are either quacks or charlatans. That is why for a nation like ours, I contested the election into National Assembly in 2007 from the same constituency as Femi Gbajabiamila and former governor Tunde Fashola, Surulere constituency 1 in Lagos. And as a media practitioner myself, I became the editor of Prime People at the age of 34. By the time I was coming into politics, they were asking me, if you had to find yourself in the National Assembly, what would be your contribution to nation building? And I said then that my contribution would be issue of intellectual revolution, cultural revolution, intellectual revolution. They asked me how. I said, for instance, most of those guys who go into the National Assembly to make laws, they haven't read African literature. They haven't read Nigerian literature. And I am of the opinion that for anybody to contest election, at least you must have read Soyinka's The Trials of Obagiri to be able to see the pranks you can get from religion. Religion is the last place to look for peace. It's not religion.
So away from religion and
so when we talk about security in Abuja, security in Nigeria is rooted in the conflict, social conflicts. So a society that is not intellectually secure, that is not driven by philosophy, by ideologues, is being ruled by demagogues. You cannot get security, because security is a function of intellectual conditioning of the people. Namely, if you get to like somebody asked me, what will I do if I were to become the president of Nigeria? And I said one of the very ministry I would have loved to handle, even as president of Nigeria, would have been Minister of Education. Because you have to tinker with the curriculum of the people, the civil populace. Yes, there are about 3 things by which you measure the development of a society, which I've always espoused on this platform. Namely, literacy level, gross domestic product, and life expectancy. Each one of those is driven by literacy level. What is the level of the people's education? That is why some people like Chief Olufalaye will canvass for a return to 1963 Constitution, where Awolowo as a premier, 10 years after the Second World War, after 1945, he introduced free education in this part of, in western region of Nigeria in 1955. And you find out that till today, there isn't any part of Africa where you can travel 50 kilometers without seeing a university except in Western region.
All right, now.
So where people are highly educated.
Barrister, you said a lot of things now.
Yes.
Now, you made mention of one of the two, let me say, enemies of existence and security and, let's say, a very sane environment.
Yes.
You made mention of religion. You made mention of religion and, is it really politics, you said?
Yes.
Now, if I'll go by it, looking at Abuja,
yes.
the significance of that place
yes.
to Nigeria,
yes.
we have a new administration that is looking into pumping, revamping our economy, revamping everything that you have to do with our finances in Nigeria right now. We want to bring in investors. Of course, insecurity is a big problem.
Yes.
Now, there's an attack, constant attack
yes.
on the Federal Capital Territory,
yes.
where the seat of power is supposed to be situated. Do you see anything political in this?
Yeah, definitely it's going to be political. But there are masterminds for that to happen. And the question is that how do we deal with the minds of human beings? Nigeria is at peace with itself. God has given us peace in this country. Not that I don't believe in, I'm not an atheist. Are you with me? I believe there is God. There's a God factor. Because even when we look at the cosmos, you know that there's intelligence behind creation. There's no doubt about that. Science has led us to that level. But the question is that who are the masterminds of this warmongering? Because Nigeria is at peace. Other nations are looking for peace elsewhere. We are at peace. In 1974, Udoji Award came with all the oil boom and whatever. We didn't know what to do with money. All right? Rather than going into agriculture, because this is the most agrarian geography in the whole world. This between the Capricorn and the Cancer, tropics. Because we are exposed to sunlight 24 hours in 365 days. So there isn't any reason why we should be looking for what is not lost if we are intellectually guided, if we are philosophically driven. So Abuja, for instance, is a seat of power where a lot of horse trading will be going on, but at the same time it is not peculiar to Abuja. It is not the geographical location itself. I mean, forces come from elsewhere to come and trouble Abuja. So it's not as if the thing is located in Abuja. Guys come from somewhere, from nowhere, to hit some people in Plateau, to hit some people in Jos, to hit some people in Ibadan. There was an explosion in Ibadan yesterday. It is not as if the perpetrators are residents in Ibadan. People come somewhere, flow somewhere, and hit. But where there's no sense of nation building, there's no sense of nationalism, there's no sense of this is our country. Let's make it work. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody has a stake. Everybody's a stakeholder. How do we make sure you pacify, you satisfy, and you condition the mind of the stakeholder to want to defend the nation?
Talking about abilities and incapacities,
yes.
I tend to, I wouldn't want to use the word question, but what's your take as to the capability and ability of the FCT minister, considering the fact he tends to be more occupied with the affairs of River State than possibly that of Abuja? I really doubt if he actually based in Abuja, because I know he's always entangled one or two issues in his home state, River State. What's your take as to his ability to actually govern FCT?
That's the reason why we ourselves. There was an article written by Professor Olatunji Dare in the early 80s when Guardian was newly founded. The title of the article was "Wrong Question, Disastrous Answers." We have to know exactly what are we talking about. We're talking about the Federal Capital Territory. We're talking about the minister. No minister is a magician to solve the problem overnight. It doesn't happen. Let him come from Sokoto, let him come from Maiduguri, let him come from anywhere. No minister will have one single idea of how to solve problem regarding his ministry, not to talk of a geography called named the Federal Capital Territory. So even if he had been there had been issues regarding his place of origin, state of origin, the interface between that and that of the national security in Abuja could be very, very minimal.
I mean, he's not a newbie when it comes to state management. He was a one-time governor and then thereafter minister of FCT. So trying to say he might not actually perform magic, we're not expecting to perform magic, but we expect certain strategies to be put in place in order to attack situations as this. As Nigerians, as individuals, as thinking persons, like you said, there is always this expectancy for one to always try to see ahead. In a state of emergency, what if this happened? What if that happened? What will I do? Things as such should be put in place. Now, at this point, we are all confused. We are confused as he is, if I will use that word, because he's as clueless as we are.
Yeah.
We're all looking for answers at this point. So why will a governing ruler in quotes tend to be as confused as a citizen? It doesn't make a sense.
You just mentioned the right word now. You said ruler. You didn't say leader. There's a difference between being a ruler and a leader. If the machinery, the appurtenances that brought you to power is one that is going to make you to stage manage, rather than the intellectual genuity inside of you to formulate a policy that will go not just during your tenure, but you go beyond you.
In other words, you're trying to say
that's leadership. That's leadership. Leadership is that I'm in this place today. I formulate a policy. Some other person can torpedo it after my tenure, but we always return to it. That is why the philosophers that produce American democracy, various ones among them, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, go and read their essays. You understand? Particularly Benjamin Franklin, the was in the $100 bill. He was party to the signature of the Constitution that made America. He was involved in, he was a physicist, was an academic. He was the one who discovered thunder wire, not nitwits. We're talking of intellectuals who had been to the laboratory and know if we are able to produce it, this is going to be the long-time effect. You can't remove it. If I had invented something, I was looking at an invention by somebody today, and I just thought, okay, I mean, this is the field. You understand what I'm saying? So it is only then that you can think through a process and say, the formula, the policy I put here is going to endure. That's a leader. It is not somebody who comes to the national federal capital territory, is into razzmatazz, every other thing that is doing policy, everything is going on. But you see, it has to. We are talking about nation building. We are talking about you getting to an office, and you are not the one driving the institution. It's the institution that is driving you. You understand? So you just key into it. When your time is off, you go.
So if I get you correctly now, you said he's not being the one driving the institution. Institution is the one driving him.
Yes.
Definitely, an institution produced the Federal Capital Territory Minister.
Yes.
If I get you correctly, it means the institution is faulty.
Yes.
If the institution is faulty, now I want to get. We have another big issue in our country right now.
Yes.
The issue of unemployment. Now, do you see any relationship with unemployment, massive unemployment, a very weak economy, coming together, joining together their hands to come against our national security as at this point?
Well, when you talk about this unemployment, I teach in the university, as I am here. I teach in the university, and I tell you that I was invigilating a class yesterday, and I said I had taught this class at a lower level, and I know that they are my products, and I can be proud of them, because I cannot supervise your project, your graduation project, without you going to the field. Some other person, they will do runs, collect money from their parents. Somebody else will write their projects. The project is supposed to be the area where the teacher or the lecturer or the supervisor want to tinker with the curriculum and whatever the student has acquired. You can't tell me that you have read, you are reading food science and technology or biochemistry, and you are going to write a project. You won't go to Nigerian breweries or Guinness to go and work. And when you get to those industries, you get to the industries and you are well monitored, you are well supervised as a teacher. You understand? And you come out in not necessarily the best of grades, but the best of quality to that industry. That's applied knowledge. You don't have to be looking for a job, because that industry will retain you and ask you to stay there. So issue on unemployment, everything is multidimensional. When you talk about nation building, everything is interwoven. You have to play your part very well as a journalist, as a media practitioner, all right, whose responsibility and role in the society is the fourth estate of the realm, meaning that we are supposed to, in gatekeeping and agenda setting, that's a duty of us as teachers of mass communication, is to ensure that we hold the government accountable to the people. Yes, there is executive, there is judiciary, there is legislature, then the media comes next. And look at all those guys who contributed to American philosophy regarding Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson, and all that. You will see there that this is a nation that wants to be driven by a lot of people are empty heads. They get into politics, and before you know it, they win an election, and they are there making policies. So you have to understand what a state is like, what the society is supposed to be like. Formulate it apart from the set of the Awos and everything. I don't see any one of them. a little while ago, somebody was discussing a league of imams in Ondo State. They were talking about if Aiyedatiwa is going to go out of, if he's going to pick his something, then the guy must pick a Muslim or something like that. And I said, no. The first governor of Ondo State was Adekunle Ajasin. The blueprint of free education that Awolowo and Action Group executed was produced by Adekunle Ajasin. So this is an intellectual space, and it ought to be. You understand? In Ondo here, where I am, Ondo City is the only city in the whole of Nigeria that has produced 4 national merit awardees at a go. It's a lot of pride to us because we take our pride in education. I took my sister's children to Gatwick Airport in England in 1986, and I met the late Dr. Taishulari. He was on the queue. As his things were falling off him, I went around him. I helped him to pick those things. He said, "You must be a Nigerian." I said, "Yes, sir." "You are Dr. Taishulari?" And I asked him, I said, "Why is it that we have Mayflower Secondary School only in Ikene, and we don't have that kind of school elsewhere, maybe in the north, so that our people's minds can be opened through education?" And the man said, well, that there's a lot of religious inhibition, because in Mayflower they expect you to have a chapel or a mosque. There's nothing like that in Mayflower. You understand what I'm saying? So nation building, and then we get to insecurity, we get to unemployment, we get to hunger, we get to poverty. People who attacked a combi bus in Ibadan at Gate garage a little while ago, they ran into a combi filled with rice, and they were hungry, and they thought, look, I'm hungry, and this is somebody that is taking these bags of rice somewhere. They mop the rice, and so we go back to Leviathan by Thomas Hobbes, that say life becomes nasty, brutish, everybody is unto himself, God is for us all. You get into chaos. So we have to recognize that whenever we are talking here, when we have the opportunity to be here, every last minute we must take our leaders, hold them responsible.
At this point, it's safe to say we are not even sure what the standard of good policing is anymore, what the standard of security personnel is anymore. I tend to wonder, do you mind enlightening us on what exactly should be the standard of a civilized security personnel? Because it's funny, while at this point we still have a lack of quick response, to emergencies. Yes. Now I tend to actually imagine kidnappers, living where the woods, wherever they are, the bush, or wherever it is, the camp, going to a settlement, where people are gathered, attack a house, kidnap, and then walk right through the door. Use the same road. They didn't fly, they didn't disappear nor appear. It wasn't a Procatapra. Walk through that road, and then what happened to the security personnel, stationed at places?
Not being able to track.
I mean, wasn't there a call? Wasn't there a good response? Because we lost. We don't know what it means to have good policing anymore. We don't even know the standard anymore as citizens.
It's not just the police. It's a post-colonial experience. As soon as the colonial masters, the colonial people left these shores, African writers began to preoccupy themselves with disillusionment as a theme. The beautiful ones are not yet born. Things fall apart. No longer artists. Cry the beloved country. Let my people go. Season of anomie. You understand? The thinkers, the writers. I happen to study literature, first, second, and third degrees literature. It was after my master's in literature that I went to study law. You understand? And literature propels my idea, my discourse on TV. As a journalist, by the time I became the editor of Prime People, by that time, I had been writing in arts in the magazine, and I was so canonized as a major contributor to Black African literature in English by Bentley Foss. Are we together? So the African writer has been warning us that we are really not going anywhere. You remember in No Longer Artists, if you have read the novel, in which Obi Okonkwo was a policeman, was going to collect bribe from the driver of God's Case No Appeal. And he was also saying, what do you want to? The driver shot him up. He said, Tutu, no, now they worry now. Why you put your nose for motorway, no concern you? The police want to charge me 2 times the amount he will have charged me now. So we grew up with corruption. So the police himself, the forces itself is disillusioned. The polity is disillusionment. It's about disillusionment. Intellectually, people are disillusioned. People come out and tell you that this is this MAC. Ask him to talk about his projects. He can't defend it. The whole place is percolated from top to bottom with corruption. We feel that we can jump, we can cut corners. No, that is why the Yoruba people. I don't know whether Abuja was so named at that time, but it's a Yoruba saying. He says Abuja Osilorun Okpe. You cannot cut corners to get to climb to the top of the pantry. You cannot. You have to go straight. Do you understand? And even in mathematics, simple mathematics, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. When you go like this, go like that, then 40 miles journey becomes 400 miles.
What then should be
so the police itself is just an institution, it's just symptomatic of what is happening in society. It's as human. I was driving from Lagos 2 Sundays ago. I had bags of water, you know, beside me, and I had some snacks of gala with me. When I got to the checkpoint, the policeman said, Ogar, I said, Barrister Fasehun. And of course, as soon as they understand that you're a lawyer, they ask you to go. But then he said, before you go, Ogar, give me water to drink. It's a policeman. Do you understand? I emptied the water, I emptied the snacks. What he didn't ask for, I gave it to him. Because it's as human as I am. It's as much a father of children as I am. So the policeman is not selected by the cherubs and the seraphs in heaven to come here. They're as human as we are.
Now, you said something about accountability.
Yes.
Being able to hold leaders accountable.
Yes.
You also said we have difference between rulers and leaders.
Yes.
Now, from what I've gotten so far, you have characterized most of our people at the top as rulers and not leaders.
Yes.
Now, accountability comes with a working system. Now, we have a system which you have faulted in most of your discussions so far, that the system is bad, the system is not really working, the system is a product of whatever we are seeing, be it insecurity or bad economy. Now, you made mention of the media being also one of the powerhouse that can also hold them accountable.
Yes.
Of course, the media have the talking. But now, bringing them to justice. When a system is bad, a system that produces the legislators, that produces the arms of government and everything is bad, how do we get the accountability which you've said?
Well, maybe a lot of they tell us that we lawyers are liars. I was on radio program and people say you are a lawyer. You lawyers are the ones fueling the society. You lawyers are liars. I said I didn't know how to answer, but I quickly rescued myself by saying, well, you might be saying Jesus Christ is a liar because Jesus was an advocate. We are sinners and he took our stead and then pleaded that we are not guilty before God. So our duty as lawyers is to do that. But as an officer in the temple of justice, our duty is to make sure that the society we met, well, the scripture, the Bible that I'm familiar with, that I grew up with, says that we should go into the world, we should multiply, we should replenish the earth, meaning that we are not supposed to live the earth the same way we met it. Lawyers, when you become a lawyer, it should be your attitude that noise pollution is criminal. All right, I'm attending a church, I'm attending a mosque, and my loudspeaker is just blaring and everybody's biochemistry awake. It is not a thought, as law will teach us, that's just thought. It's not thought, it's crime. Because epidemiology teaches us that where you have high blood pressure, you're on your way to passage. And something happened very close to my house in Lagos, and I heard the people who are blaring loudspeakers, they are church or mosque, that they are responsible for the murder of a woman who died. Because after the husband after she had been hospitalized and she came back home, she still complained to the husband that she was having migraine, serious migraine. And this is a church behind her house. There's another church in front of her house. How do you think that had to be correct? So when you are talking about life expectancy, how do you expect people to live well? You understand? So we are. There's no way you can isolate any particular issue in Nigeria from. They are blatantly interwoven, and the bottom line is corruption. Is that everybody, we are in a Hobbesian society where life is short, nasty, and brutish, where everybody is unto himself and God is for us all. That's what happened. Survival of the fittest. Somebody was going to do a borehole for my wife, and we were pricing it. And he said, in the house in Lagos, the man was giving me one outrageous price. He said, lately, he said dollar had gone up. I said, this is not a function of dollar. You already bought that machine many years ago. And whereas you are pushing from maybe say 250 to 350 or thereabouts, you could make do with the last 250 you were going, and then have 10 clients to patronize you and make more money, rather than you fixated to the fact that dollar has gone up, therefore this has to, so everybody does anything he likes. Petrol, like the moment they said they withdrew subsidy like this, people began to give, filling station went haywire. And you cannot take anybody to task because you yourself, you lack the moral standing to say somebody is wrong. So it's a national issue. When I'm coming on TV to this, there's no way you can discuss any issue in isolation from others. You cannot. But we look at Nigeria. Okay, take about the supremacy of the Nigerian Constitution. Section 1, subsection 1 and subsection 3 says that this constitution is supreme. and its provisions shall have binding force on all persons and authorities throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's section 1, subsection 1. Subsection 3 says, where any law is inconsistent with the provisions of this constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. Now, if we are given the right to, under the Fundamental Human Rights, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, if it says that we have a freedom, a latitude to propagate our religion, there must be a proviso there that cautions you that on no account should anything about your religion be a nuisance to the next door. On no account. And where that happens, like I'm proposing in the paper I'm writing on social SDG, I am looking at the enforcement of environmental laws through summary jurisdiction. Fashola did it in Lagos. If he gets to a place where there's noise pollution, he doesn't ask a commissioner for justice or attorney general to go and prosecute them. He goes there and seals the place up himself immediately.
Now, at this point, Barris, I think
so. These are the things that can really
I think we should be looking at the way forward.
Yes.
Now, the minister, honorable minister, he made his speech, of course, which I find a little bit insensitive at some point, trying to say the president to overblow situations and all that, asking citizens not to panic. Okay, we understand that. The president himself never made an immediate response to that action. Of course, we know his wife actually came out to actually tend to speak on that issue, but him as a president, he never came out to being the monarch of this state of Nigeria. He never made an immediate response to that act. With that being, what exactly are we as citizens to expect? What are we looking forward to as citizens? I mean, after this event,
we really cannot run away from our shadows. Excuse me. Excuse me. We can't run away from our shadows. Namely, as I espoused earlier on, American graduate, for instance, when you get to the university, you are supposed to read a handbook known as the Beaux-Arts College Readers. Writers like Jojo, where many writers are there to tell us. You understand what I'm saying? So when you get into government, you get into power. What do you want to do at the federal capital territory? There are various standards. You understand? Particularly, maybe that person that is speaking, like I said, having read maybe Antis of the Savannah by Chinua Achebe, and see what a writer does there. So before you say, I had been a journalist, I had been an editor, I edited the magazine that was selling 120,000 copies per week in this country, Nigeria, at the age of 34. So the language of law is different from the language of the media. The person who is covering the judiciary goes to court early in the morning to listen to parties whose cases are called, representation, etc., etc. And then when he files the report to me as an editor, all right, the way I'm going to cast my headline, I have to sensationalize. Emmanuel drags Jacob to court. It's as if Emmanuel was holding somebody by the jugular and is dragging him to court. Because I want to sell the paper. It's my business, part of my business. So that cannot be an alibi for you to say that because they are over sensationalizing. You yourself must have a good grasp of what you are doing for people to see. Nobody could have said that Martin Luther King was over dramatizing, or the media, the New York Times was over saying what they were saying about Martin Luther King at that time. Nobody could have said that. Awo himself and Jack and they were journalists, so they understand that you cannot run away from your shadows in the press. And the business of the media could be exaggerating. What is important is for you to address the issue. Are we together? So in terms of nation building, and somebody might say the media, they overblow it. What is the job of a media? Blow it and sell your paper, sell your media. You understand what I'm saying? Without being seditious, without levying war against the government, without being guilty of constitutionally levying war, sedition, levying war against government. There are three ways by which you can take people from government. It's either by voting, by election, or by reason of ill health, or by death. Anything outside that is unconstitutional when you want to take over power. So the citizens must be very vibrant, must be very passionate about knowing where they were coming from, where they are, and where they are going. You cannot just look at yourself and say that, okay, I'm a television presenter today on KAFTAN television. I'm not likely going to be the president of Nigeria tomorrow. You could be the president of Nigeria tomorrow. If you get to the seat, how will you drive the car? So this is my take.
Well, at this point, I guess I'm not a barrister, but I won't really want to ask this question.
Yes.
In a situation where there is no guarantee safety for lives and property, doesn't that actually reflect a failed nation?
Oh yeah, it's part of what we are talking about.
So are we, can you say as a barrister, Nigerian at this point is a failed nation?
I will never say Nigeria is a failed nation, because it's just about we are not where we are supposed to be. And the kind of rating we get on Facebook, 5th most religious after Afghanistan. What's happening in Afghanistan? There's earthquake in Turkey. There is lawlessness. There's no freedom of. I mean, you go and read this woman who wrote The Woman at Point Zero. All right, and see what is happening in those regions regarding freedom of human rights. All right, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was founded in 1948, the year University of Ibadan was founded, when the Jews became a state. The African Charter of Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement became effective in Africa, and then Chapter 4 of our Constitution is what is representing that. A woman cannot talk, a woman cannot do anything under the aegis of supernatural. Women are supposed to be in the other room. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the first person, I attended Bishop Phillips Primary School here in Ondo. And the first person to take, after me, Yele of blessed memory, Bademasi, and maybe there was another girl that took over first position from me from primary 2. I can't forget, anytime I see her, I say, Banke, you are the person. Female. And the lady who had the best results in mathematics when I finished secondary school was a woman, was a female. So a lot of things we are not scientific. We are not being scientific. What's happening? You understand? Dr. Mrs. Awolo Odosumu said the other time that a woman has to achieve twice what the man has achieved to get half the recognition the man has. In some until 21st century, it shouldn't be. Do you understand? Anything that is not going to propel our humanity forward and move us forward, demystify. You know, when I want to teach philosophy and science, I asked the question. I said, the Yoruba people have a say that there's none but one moon. But when you get to Jupiter, you realize that there are 12 moons in Jupiter. So that knowledge is restricted to the Yoruba people. That's their epistemology. But when you get to advance, you know that there's more than one moon. And that a star is several million times bigger than the sun.
Of this, and we've been going around. Okay, yes. It's true that we have problem on ground.
Yes.
A lot of issues, national issues,
yes,
affecting us everywhere.
Yes.
Because what you also said, there's no how you will take one without going through another. They are interwovenly related. Now, in Nigeria, we are very religious, as you believe, as we know. Most time we say we thank to God and say we hope God will do this, God will do that. Of course, God will not come down. Say somebody that is supposed to be. Of course, you have also on them the structure, let me say the political sphere, everything that Nigeria has, the system is not working. But at this point, we still want to believe that things are going to get better, especially when you said you will not say Nigeria is a failed nation. We are not just where we are supposed to be. Looking at the whole situation on ground, we want something. We want to get to a place where we are supposed to be, in your word. What are the things that we are supposed to do?
The things we are supposed to do is to be basically prognostic. You as a generation, you can't exist in a vacuum. So that when chapters are opened backward to look at where you were there, what did you say? What were your contribution to knowledge? You just lived through the whole life. You didn't contribute anything. Professor Wole Soyinka is going to be 90 this year by the grace of God, and I have written collected poems. Are you with me to mark the 90th birthday? Because he was born July 13 and I was born July 14.
Wow.
So I measure what he does vis-a-vis what I am doing, because he's the hero in his own class. There isn't anything William Shakespeare has written that Soyinka has not written. He has outwritten William Shakespeare. He has written anything more than any other person, whether it's in the scripture or anything. No, he has contributed to knowledge. So he has moral ground to say that when the Kolakpo Sulu Gambari, Emir of Ilorin, was saying that they should not have certain festival in Ilorin because the Muslims are experiencing certain things. Soyinka reacted to that. So for people like that, we need to realize that in this day and age, we must be prognostic. What did we contribute to knowledge at our time? What did we do? Archaeologists, we have to dig the history to find out what was at certain point. You are discussing paleontology. When you dig the ground, certain age, what What is the movement of the continents vis-a-vis the globe, geographically and geologically? You understand? What did we do? I mean, if you piece the map of the world together, you see that African Horn, African, Nigeria, the Guinea, Gulf of Guinea fit into certain parts of Latin America and the Gulf like that. You understand what I'm saying? This is science, this is contribution, but we are not contributing anything. And so, we, as a generation, we owe it a duty that tomorrow, what would my children meet? How would they fare? We are not thinking.
That's exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm a governor for 4 years, for 8 years, my performance shouldn't be restricted to my tenure. It should outlive me. Do you understand? What we should do as a nation is to sit ourselves down and get to, according to Achebe, we have to know where the rain began to beat us, and then decide that, okay, so this is where we started, this is where we were. How do we, in 50 years' time, what would Nigeria be like? Our leaders should think through that. That's an Awolowo for you. Because by the time we were, even in law, by the time you are talking about the Conveyancing Act of 1886, by 1959, Awolowo founded the Property and Conveyancing Law, 1959, that allows you to use property for mortgage, etc., like that. Obasanjo came with, and the Muritala and their team, they had the Land Use Decree in 1977 that became Land Use Act in 1978. People can be measured and say, okay, in your year, this is what you did. Do you understand? But the situation, you don't have building blocks. So I'm not castigating anybody. It's our problem. All of us, we have to do something. What am I writing? What am I doing? What am I saying? At a certain age, can I really go through my past and say, okay, media, I got to the apogee of my career in the media at 34. What did I write? So I started going to Facebook to look at my past stories, the stories I had written, the people I had written about, what they had written about me. You understand what I'm saying? So at any point in time, a people must decide and say, I flourished. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616. 52 years. He lived for 52 years. Wole Soyinka got the Nobel at the age of 52. The second youngest to win the Nobel. William Shakespeare lived for 52 years. Jesus Christ lived for 33 years. The first gospel that was written about him was St. Mark. It was written in 1555. That's 22 years after him. People have to document your contribution. And as leaders, I don't think that if you are solving security these days, you are saying soldiers should go to that place, you are transferring, you are deploying, you are changing people's guard. It's not about that. It's about the fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy, which will be your focus, making sure that you live your society better than you met it.
All right, Barrister, thank you very much. Right now, we are really out of time, but just in a minute, you as a person that you love Nigeria, you want to contribute to Nigeria, just in a minute, what are your words of encouragement to Nigerian citizens as at this moment that we are looking for shelter, we are looking for peace, we are looking for stability when we talk about economy and especially security-wise?
Yes, we must have a national policy towards education, the kind of thing that our students study. If I become president of Nigeria today, I will tinker with the curriculum, the Y curriculum. I will tinker with it. I will tinker with it. And if I become president of Nigeria, the only portfolio I want to handle in addition to the presidency is that of Minister of Education. If you look at Nyerere of Tanzania, he translated William Shakespeare's Macbeth and Julius Caesar into Swahili. That's an intellectual. He couldn't have been a run-of-the-mill kind of president. He couldn't have been. He must be a thinker to, okay, let me deconstruct Swahili and let me look at William Shakespeare. Do you understand? Until you have leaders like that, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., guys who had read, and they can regurgitate the society and rebrand it in a manner that will be suitable for future generations, that they can remember them, oh, when he was here, at least he solved this problem in his time.
Thank you very much for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
All right, viewers, it has been an enjoyable moment with Barrister here. I'm also looking at Nigerian security issues, especially what is happening in Abuja and all over the nation. We are Nigerians, we are strong people, we believe everything will be fine. Though we are not where we are supposed to be, but we believe we are going to get there by doing the right thing. And by doing the right thing, we are going to pick from the words of what he has said so far. I believe some people too in the government, they'll be saying this. They should try to put things together and make Nigeria the great nation that we are supposed to be. From us here, we'll be handing over to our Lagos studio, which we believe they have more beautiful package to give to you. I'll be signing out here. I remain Micheal Obagiri.
Personally, I think I will subscribe to his school of thought, talking about being educated and being buoyant intellectuals. Do have a wonderful day ahead. I remain Ezekiel. Ogar.